this is a curious case of sorts. The first time you're seeing the minority investors, the fund managers as a group come together. What do you make of the objections raised in the first place?
Well, we just heard Mr. Bhargav say it's a win-win for all, but very clearly it's a win for one shareholder at the expense of others. So the structure which Swati referred to is pretty unusual. The auto industry in the rest of the world is pretty mature, but India is the only country where a large manufacturer, and they've got 50% of the market share, has decided to say that, look, we are going to set up a facility and buy from that, and the facility will not be owned by us, but owned by someone else. And this actually is a fairly unusual arrangement. And then, of course, shareholders would be worried that, look, if it begins here, it could well be a precedent for other business houses to start doing something where you've suddenly got a bunch of listed entities which at the end of the day are distribution companies, and the manufacturing is done in separate entities with separate ownership. Of course, here you also have issues in terms of, there's no clarity on the structure. The fact that Maruti itself has fairly sizable cash balances. It's got 8,000 crores of cash on its balance sheet. And mind you, this is when they pay about 2,500 crores as royalty to Suzuki each year. And when you're looking at the investment which is being made in the first phase, it would be about 4,500, 5,000 crores. So it's the company has cash. They should be able to fund the capex going forward. And finally, of course, investors are incensed a bit about the timing of the announcement. Both of them seem to...
I'm just going to come to the timing in just a moment. Let's get to Mohit also into this conversation. Mohit, one of the concerns that I've seen most investors raise, and the investors' letter very clearly says that this is blatantly wrong. And I'm quoting the letter that they've written to the board of Maruti, which says that this erodes, this is value eroding, and it's an oppressive transaction. What do you make of the principal objections raised by the investors?
I think the most important part is, one is that this doesn't look nice. It doesn't smell nice. That's a different aspect. But I think more important we have to see is there a breach of a law? Because I think companies in India can only follow the law of the land, which is today. And therefore, I think you need to look at from three perspectives. One is the investor perspective. Investors have a right to go to SEBI, which is supposed to be the watchdog of investors. And that is what they're exercising. The other important part is that this is a listed company. They have a lot of independent directors. And independent directors have fiduciary responsibility and duties towards the board, which is a fairly high-level thing. And if you look at the New Companies Act, they are personally liable if they do, because the knowledge is attributed to them through the board process. So this is a very significant thing. The other important thing is that unlike what was there in 1956 Companies Act, under the present act, the interested shareholder, which here is Suzuki, and interested directors, which are nominees of Suzuki on the board, actually cannot vote and cannot participate on this thing. So really, if you look at all these issues, then you really understand is that yes, there is a lot of nervousness, as what Amit said. There is also a risk of it setting a wrong precedent.
Right.
But I don't see, at least I've not seen a single transaction in my life where an investor, where a majority investor says, I'm going to put $1 billion in a manufacturing facility and will make no profit.
Right.
And these are accountings, we can always work on that. So I think there's a lot of nervousness, but I don't believe there is any breach of the law.
So that's the point, Mohit. Maruti currently is saying, look, this doesn't violate any law so far. But are you, as Amit points out, surprised at the timing of it? Because the new Companies Act comes into effect later this year. Does the timing of this deal surprise you?
Not at all. Let me tell you one thing. That again, this is a overreaction. If you think about it, the land is sitting with Maruti. The land has to be leased out. All these issues, even the capital cost, what is going to be passed through, all these things needs to be done. And it will take few months, maybe years to get those things sorted out. And you remember one thing, what is being talked about is a framework type of a discussion. This is not, because the devil is in detail, and I think those details will come out, and they have already made a statement that there will be no profit from that. So I would say that looking at it and thinking that the timing is wrong, I don't think so. This approval which they get today is not going to last forever. because once the detailing, the capital cost, all these issues get sorted out, we'll have a new act, and where the interested directors and interested shareholders will not be allowed to vote, and therefore this particular aspect will be looked at the highest level of scrutiny. But I think what is very important, I think for some of the investors community to understand, that unfortunately in India, we do not have a doctrine of opportunity, corporate opportunity. Unlike in the US and Europe, if a majority shareholder is setting up a business which is part of an existing corporation, they actually have to come and give a right of first refusal to the majority. That does not exist in India. So I don't think we can start importing foreign concepts, and again, that's the reason in my view the oppression and mismanagement will not work, because there is really no breach of a law. SEBI, if you look at it in past Holcim transaction and everywhere, they have looked at it whether this was in breach of a law, which will not a class action, again, as one of your persons said, that it will not attract, even if that's the problem, because there is no law like that.